First off, I think it's wrong to say that a cinematic universe in itself is a bad idea. When people talk about the recent epidemic of cinematic universes, many are quick to say that there's too many of them, and that the idea itself of having a series of films all taking place in canon with one another, it's a bad idea. It's a cheap idea, and that's why all of these universes that have cropped up to copy Marvel have all failed so miserably. Now here's the point where, as per usual, I be a little controversial and say that there is nothing inherently wrong with a cinematic universe. In fact, a cinematic universe itself is a very good idea. If, for example, a director were to create a series of quality films, and it just so happened that all of them took place in the same universe, then what would be the problem with that? I mean, Quentin Tarantino has been doing exactly that for the past few decades. All that being said, there is no denying that this recent abundance of universes, it's a pandemic. A pandemic which is responsible for a horde of passable, mediocre movies that will all be and deserve to be forgotten in 5 years' time. And why? Why have all of these universes, from the Dark Universe to the Amazing Spider-Man universe to the Dark Tower universe to the DC universe and many more, why have they all failed when the poster child they've all tried so hard to copy has been such an undeniable success? It is painfully obvious how these new cinematic universes are nothing but a soulless cash grab. Now, technically speaking, every Hollywood movie ever made is a cash grab, but when you look at, for example, Iron Man 1, the creators were so incredibly in touch and in love with the source material, from the perfect casting and performance of Robert Downey Jr. to the well-done script, to the Iron Man suit, to all the little tidbits. Yes, the people who made Iron Man wanted to make money, but it came from a place of genuine passion, and it was very clearly a film that Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. put their souls into. However, that enthusiasm, that passion and love for great storytelling that has gone into, well, not every, but most Marvel movies, that passion is totally devoid in these new cinematic universes. When it came to, say, the Dark Universe with The Mummy, it was not greenlit because someone was genuinely passionate about the idea. It only happened because someone said, hey, Marvel is raking in serious money, how can we copy them and earn huge amounts of money too? And that mindset really shows in The Dark Tower, the Amazing Spider-Man films, The Mummy and more. These flops of movies that are trying to mimic Marvel, I think calling them soulless, while it is correct, it's also the wrong word to use, because it implies that that is the core reason why all these Marvel copycats have bit the dust and died, most dying before they've even made a second movie in their universe. And I think the core reason why all these copycats failed is because of a total misunderstanding as to why Marvel has been so successful. What is really eye-opening is when you look at Iron Man, the film that kickstarted the MCU. Now, what I'm about to say might rub a few of you the wrong way, but Iron Man 1 was a perfect film. By that, I don't mean it was a masterpiece, but rather as a film to kickstart a cinematic universe, it fulfilled its function flawlessly. It delivered a thoroughly enjoyable viewer experience, it got the audience invested in the character of Iron Man, and made many people excited for the future of the MCU. And what is really rather telling, in the whole film, there is only one moment of world building that directly hypes up the sequels, and that is after the credits, after the film is over. Iron Man is a standalone film with almost no references to any future films, and it did a fantastic job at building hype for those future films, and in a sense, that is really rather ironic, because when you do what many have done, and you make your film what is essentially a feature-length advertisement, go figure, the people enjoy that film less because they want to be entertained. They want a strong and interesting protagonist who overcomes his inner flaws on a fun story, and they don't want to watch a Super Bowl commercial where Dr. Jekyll comes in and talks about himself and their version of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a good 5 minutes. In The Mummy, when that specifically happened, the film in that moment forgot to be a film. For a whole scene, it put the story on hold and just advertised to the viewer what the future films will be about. What's quite interesting to note is that Marvel introduces S.H.I.E.L.D., one of the main MCU factions, in Iron Man 1. However, they do it so smoothly and it fits in so well with the flow of the story that it works and adds to the movie. But when you cram in those moments of world building, when it feels unnatural, it makes the people enjoy that film less, which ironically makes them want to go see those follow-up films being teased less too. I'm sure most of you remember that scene in Age of Ultron where Thor goes into a cave and has a vision of the Infinity Stones in a scene that was really out of nowhere, and its only purpose was to hype up the future films. Almost everyone disliked that scene, and even Joss Whedon, the director himself, said that he didn't like it either. It was one of his least favourite scenes of the whole movie. That scene is a blemish on what is otherwise a very well woven together series of films, but if you were to take that scene of Thor with the vision and extend it to being 2 hours long, then you would have The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you would have The Mummy or Batman vs Superman. There is nothing wrong with having Easter eggs and world building and well done cameos from characters who will play a larger role in later films, but only as long as it doesn't break the flow of the story, and more than that, actually adds to it. That is a flaw that is barely there in Marvel, and is like a plague in these newer universes. For example, when the Flash jumps in out of nowhere and warns Bruce about Superman from the future, or when Wonder Woman spends 2 minutes opening her emails teaching the audience about the many superheroes that exist in the world. Now, Batman vs Superman has been demolished by the video essay community more times than I could ever hope to possibly imagine, so I will be very quick, but Batman vs Superman is a great example to explain why so few people care about these little world-building moments that tease upcoming films, because they are all done with such a lack of grace. So how do we tell the audience the fact that Flash exists in our universe? How about at the start of the film, Bruce Wayne is watching the news and there is an anchor talking about a mysterious red flash of light that's been stopping muggings around the east coast of the US. We don't see him, we only hear in the background someone talking about someone that could be him on the news. Maybe that could have worked and been at least a little interesting, and added at least a little fun to the film. But no, they had a character read a long email. That is about the most unimaginatively bland way to do world building that exists. Above all else, the people want a fun, entertaining film, and if you deliver that, the people will come back to watch the sequel. It doesn't matter how many times you tease the fact a sequel will happen, or that you have a larger world. The only thing that actually matters is how good a film it actually was. That is a concept that Marvel has shown time and time again it at the absolute least understands, and all those companies trying to set up their own universes have displayed time and time again that they don't. They're so busy cramming in references and teasers of future films, they're so caught up in the fact that they are making a cinematic universe, that they forget the most important part. They forget to make actually good cinema. And that comes back to the opening statement, about how the abundance of cinematic universes is not the problem, but the real problem is how all of them have delivered nothing more than passable movies. The Dark Tower was an okay movie. Its plot was by the books, its characters sufficed, but it was not the kind of movie you want to see twice, and it was certainly not a movie that warranted a sequel, let alone 10. The Mummy was an okay movie. I would never recommend it to anyone, but Tom Cruise did an alright job acting for it. The story is by the books and formulaic, but at the very least it is not a film I wholeheartedly regret watching. But the reason why nobody is, or rather was, hyped for the non-existent futures of those cinematic universes is because those films are mediocre at best and downright painful to watch at worst. Who in their right minds wants to pay a $10 ticket to see a sequel for a film that was best defined as generic mediocrity? People love Marvel and are lining up in the millions to see their new movies because they first and foremost put their energy into making their movies good, into making interesting characters you legitimately want to see in the sequels. I've always subscribed to the idea that there is no such thing as a bad idea, but there is such a thing as bad execution. You can make a movie about the Sinister Six from Spider-Man, and you can make it a really good movie. You could make a movie about an ancient mummy coming to life, and you could make it a really good movie. You could make a movie using any overdone story and still make it a great movie. It's not about the quality of the idea behind the film, it's about the quality of the film, and it's just rather unfortunate that all of these cinematic universes trying to copy Marvel have failed on both of those fronts. It may seem like an answer too simple to be true, but it kind of is. If The Mummy with Tom Cruise was a genuinely good movie and got outstanding reviews, a lot more people would have wanted to see the sequel to it. Go figure. And because none of the other universes, with the exception of the X-Men universe and arguably one other film, have made good movies, this leaves Marvel in the very strange place of winning by default, because nobody is actually challenging them in the race, because none of the other contenders are actually making good movies. It's a little bit like a professional ping pong player who's playing in a tournament against a group of people who have never played a game of ping pong in their entire life. It doesn't really matter how good the career player is, because at the end of the day, he's the only guy playing who actually knows how to hit the ball. If The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or The Dark Universe or Fantastic Four got released before Iron Man in 2006, they would have still flopped because none of them were good movies. The fact they were part of a cinematic universe or were made after Marvel started churning out films has next to nothing to do with it. A cinematic universe should only be made if the source material warrants it. The Marvel comics were the perfect platform to launch a cinematic universe off of, and they really hit the ground running with Iron Man, Thor and Captain America, and it's a momentum that has only grown over the years and is showing no signs of slowing down. They had a rich property where ever since they've been around, comic book characters have always mingled with each other, so from that logic, when it comes to adapting them to the silver screen, having comic book characters as part of a cinematic universe is not only the best way, it's really the only way to properly do them justice. And this comes back to the DCEU, which is in theory a very good idea. They had a strong property that warranted a cinematic universe, they had hordes of fans wanting the DC roster to be adapted to the silver screen, and the only reason the DCEU has failed is because of its rather poor execution. But what is curious is the tenacity of the DC fans. Many of them really want DC to start cranking out great movies, and I know somehow me saying this is going to come back and haunt me, but in the next year, it looks like DC might actually start giving Marvel a run for its money, and it looks like they're turning over a new leaf with Shazam and Aquaman. Maybe DC has finally learned their lesson, or maybe it's just more of the same, and the DCEU will never be more than mediocre. But what do you think? Are cinematic universes a plague that needs to stop entirely, or like me, do you think the real problem is just the lack of quality movies in those universes? I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. Now, every day I receive emails from you guys asking for advice on creative writing, and while I do my best to reply to each and every one of your emails, it's come to my attention that there is a far more effective way for you to learn how to be a better writer. If, like me, you want to write your own stories and make your own movies, which I know a lot of you guys out there are interested in, then I would highly recommend you check out Skillshare, what I believe to be the best educational service out there, and a fantastic place for you to hone down your craft, whether it be creative writing, filmmaking, video editing, or quite literally thousands of other topics. But what more than that, Skillshare, who I can happily thank for sponsoring today's video, their memberships are usually $10 a month, but right now they are giving away 500 2-month memberships totally for free. No catch, no cost. If you click that link in the description, you'll get complete and free access to their service for a full 2 months. However, let me stress that there are only 500 slots available, and every time I give out free memberships for Skillshare on this channel, they always go within the first couple days. So if you want to take advantage of this opportunity while there are still spaces left, then please click that link and register as soon as you can. Most recently, I've been watching the Writing Academy series by Steve Alcorn. In that series, he gives out a lot of really good advice, so when you click that link, I'd recommend that as a great place to get started. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on The Closer Look.